I saw one the other day and someone was like, have you ever gotten into an argument? What did she say? Have you ever gotten into an argument and you have no idea why it started and it
Yes.
lasted for 7 hours? And at the end of it, you were physically, emotionally, mentally exhausted. And you looked back at those 7 hours and went, what even happened?
Yeah. What did you even talk about?
What
What
did
were
you
you
even
even
talk about?
defending? Nothing.
Nothing got resolved.
No.
There was no forward motion, whatever. And then you look at your partner and they seem completely unfazed. And I was like, that is wild to think
Yes.
about. That is wild. But it's because that narcissist in that argument was consuming. They were getting their supply. They're going to keep it going as long as they possibly can. Um, but yeah, so
Yeah.
narcissism is crazy. So
Just as a quick note too, you're also mentioning that narcissists will go into like a fit of a rage
yeah,
and they'll like go, it's like psychotic. It's like almost like they don't even realize that they're going into this like crazy
it's
rage.
it's an actual psychotic break in their mind.
And
Yeah.
I've seen it because this is the way my ex-boyfriend used to behave. If I brought up something that he didn't want to be found out about, like who he was texting or who he was calling, he literally, his face went red, his eyes bulged out, and he was like yelling at me and in my face, like
Yeah.
because he'd been found out.
And that is the number one
and
time where
and
you'll see that
denying it,
psychotic break happen is,
denying it.
yeah,
Absolutely.
when
Like it
you
never.
provide the narcissist with proof
Yes.
that you have found them out
Yes.
or that they are wrong, and especially if you do it publicly, that's when that narc rage comes out. And that's when the smear campaigns happen. The narcissist will do and say whatever they need to get the eyes of the public off of them and shift it onto somebody else. Blame shifting is another number one tactic of the narcissist. Yeah. So if you ever see that publicly happening, in your own life or online or in groups, you probably know what
Yes.
you're dealing with there.
It's funny because it makes me think of all this stuff you're saying. Just like, man, because I feel like I've displayed a lot of this behavior in relationships before. Not that I was in like tons of relationships, but even just casual, whatever it was, I would display some of this. And the change that I had in my life that I write about in my book, so go check it out, shadowwork.com, where I feel like the major shift was where I went from thinking that I was the center of the universe to actually realizing that I'm not the center of the universe. So when I thought I was the center of the universe and nothing really mattered, and when you died, you just rotted in the ground, so who gives a shit? I would just, party like it was 1999, even if it was like 98 or whatever, just like going crazy. And then I had this whole epiphany about it, and it really kind of blew my mind. And, because people would always say that I was a nice guy and all this stuff. And I know that the nice guy thing doesn't mean that you're actually a good person. Like you said,
It's
you
a
could be
facade.
a people pleaser, or you could just be love bombing. Because I feel like that's what would happen in the last relationship that I was in. It ended over like about 11 years ago, 10, 11 years ago. And I would, of course, I was like trying to hook up on the side. Like I didn't even care. And the way that I looked at it was I met this woman and we dated for a few months, or, whatever. We were hanging out a bunch, and she really wanted to be in a relationship with me. So she kind of got me to this point where I just agreed. So I was always just like, I never even wanted this in the first place. So who cares? And again, I didn't think about anyone else's feelings. Like I didn't care. I was just like, swinging my thing all over. And um whenever I got close to getting caught or whatever, that's what I would do. I would just like freak out. I mean, I know you guys know me as this great person, but yeah, I have had a lot of rage. I can still tap into it if I need it, so don't try anything. Not you guys I'm talking about. No. But yeah,
He's
so
a heathen, not a hippie, you guys.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But I feel like that one major shift is really what it was for me. And of course, it's not like I just had the shift and everything was great. I've been working on stuff and I still work on stuff to this day. But I feel like that's really what it is. And so maybe that's why a lot of people say that narcissism can't be cured or whatever, because I think it has to be like a thing that they see, and it probably is so hard for people to actually see it unless you're looking for it actively or whatever it was. But I was on stage all the time talking about everything. I talk about my life, my behavior. So I was constantly confronting it. And then once I started meditating, I really think that was the key for me. That, and then I started smoking weed and like doing mushrooms and stuff like that. But I was doing it because I wanted to um do more self exploration. Like I wanted to see what the universe had to tell me. So I was open to it. So I feel like when people say, I mean, I don't know how you feel, I'm sure we'll talk about this, but when you hear people say that narcissists can't be cured, I think it's more along the lines of like, there's nothing you could really do for that person. They have to figure it out for themselves and actually want to
Yes.
do it and then do it. And still to this day, um, not like I have the tendencies or whatever, but that behavior is still in my mind. Like I know I could still do it if I wanted to or whatever, but I just choose, it's like, why would I do that? I don't know. And I think it's funny because it goes back to my upbringing with just in different religions, because every time I was always told you had to be good or you're going to go to hell. You have to be good or you're going to go to hell. There's no explanation why you should be a good person, or society works better, or why should you treat your neighbor like yourself, and what are the benefits and what are the negative things. It was just like, no, you're going to go to hell if you don't, and if you do, you'll go to heaven. So I couldn't find any reward right here in the now. And then once I came across astrotheology and all this stuff early in my life, I thought it was all this higher power stuff was just crap. I thought it was just like all woo woo, and it wasn't real, and it was just like a control system. I kind of threw the baby out with the bathwater. So that's when my behavior probably got even worse. I had to
Yeah.
get that before it got better.
And you can like carry narcissistic behaviors with you and not be a narcissist. The fact that you were able to self-reflect and say, I'm not the center of the universe, means that you're not a narcissist. You could carry every trait that a narcissist does and use all those behaviors, but those could all be learned behaviors from dealing with narcissists in your own life
Absolutely.
and seeing how effective they are. Because it's not like these behaviors that the narcissist is using are ineffective. They're extremely effective.
That's why they use them.
Narcissists are the top of Fortune 500 companies. They're the ones that own all the businesses. They're the world leaders. They're all these people because they're so good at influencing and manipulating people. So it makes sense that you would see that in the world around you and go, okay, well, I need to mimic that behavior if I want that level of success, whatever that success may be.